The hardest part about learning something new is not embracing new ideas but letting go of old ones. And that quote is by Todd Rose, ending the average. I'm going to college to become a teacher, so the topic on whether or not standardized testing should be required for college acceptance is very important to me because I do not think it is fair to determine the fate of our youth on one test. It is an injustice to measure how well children meet predetermined criteria. I have researched this topic endlessly for the past 2 weeks and I'm here to share my knowledge with you. The College Board should end standardized testing. The main points that I will be sharing with you is that standardized testing does not accurately measure the student's knowledge, the anxiety that comes along with standardized testing and the effects of it, and how standardized testing sets up our poor youth for failure. The standardized testing that isn't correctly measuring the intelligence of our youth. It is an unfair, biased test. Standardized testing caters to rich families who can afford to get their children SAT tutors and who can go to better schools. Standardized testing don't allow choice because it is a one-size-fits-all. Students may have knowledge but may not be able to show what they know and understand on the test. And that is a quote by Molly Miswowski from the article Standardized Testing Still Fails Students. The education resource and classroom sizes are much different from school to school. In some schools you have classrooms that only have a few students and there's many teachers in the school, and those schools have lots of technology and better books, like they're newer, and all the students are just really catered to because the teacher can just have like a lot of one-on-one time with them. And you go to other schools and there's like 30 students in the classroom and it's just a teacher and everyone's going crazy. Well, you have two very separate sides of the schooling system there. So yes. Scores from the SAT and ACT test are good proximities from the amount of wealthy students are born into. And that is a quote from Yoki Terada from the article Psychological Toll of High Test Taking. And this means that if you are wealthy, you're going to score higher on the SATs. And that's shown. And it's because they have the tutors and they go to very nice schools, and they're just very well prepped because the teachers and those curriculums have been shown to very much teach that, because they want these students to just score high on the SAT. Like, they just teach them that knowledge. So Abigail Johnson from the article Rich Students Got Better SAT Scores and Here's Why says researchers have repeatedly found that wealthy students got significantly advantages through college applications and processes that greatly impact a student's performance on standardized testing. These standardized tests create a lot of anxiety for these children. What they have found is that on average, students have 15% more cortisol levels in their systems in the homeroom period before the standardized test than on days with no high-risk test taking. Students who show the largest variations of cortisol between test taking and non-testing weeks tend to perform worse on the test than expected to give their classwork and performances on non-high stake test, among other measures. Grace Tatter. That quote is from Grace Tatter. This measures the negative view on standardized testing and creates an environment that induces stress for these students and result in worse test scores. Teachers go on and on about how important these tests are, but the students are not equally taught on it. So teachers will say there's the ACT, the PSAT, which is the practice SAT. There's just so much studying for it, but it's not equal studying, and it's the same test for everybody. And it's just one answer. It's only one answer, and that's it. It's not, you can't type it, and it's, oh, you may have the answer that may be kind of correct. Like, that's kind of an idea. No, just one. And so that's really biased. That's really biased because not everyone has the same knowledge on all the vocabulary and things like that. So instead of standardized testing, we could use performance-based testing. And this entitles problem solving, collaboration, critical thinking, and the application of knowledge to real-world situations. It helps students get ready for problem solving, college, their future careers, and life instead of just having them meet basic standards. So we are meeting real life expectations instead of just, oh, here's this test and here's this stuff you should know that, that not everyone is being taught. The benefit of PBA is that the test is fair for everybody and that it will open up opportunities for our youth. PBA also removes bias and creates more equality. For example, Holland recalls a state standard test question about how decomposition for 8th grade science questions asked about how grass clippings, she said, I'm so sorry. The quote says that the question she had asked about grass clippings after mowing the lawn, and the student got hung up on grass clippings, she said. Someone had no idea what they were because she had lived in an apartment and had no lawns, or they had lawns but didn't mow them because of the landscaper. And that quote is by Neoday. And so what it is saying is that she didn't know what the grass clippings were, and so because of that she couldn't answer the question. And so if that was on the SAT, she would have just gotten the question wrong, and that's not fair because you live in an apartment complex. You can't get an SAT, I'm sorry, because this was not an SAT question, but it was a question, and this is just an example of how, the knowledge in your everyday life can apply to questions on the standardized test. I hope that I have convinced you that standardized testing is not valuable anymore and it is ineffective in calculating the knowledge of our youth. The solution is performance-based tests, and because it can give every student an equal chance at getting accepted into good colleges. Standardized testing is outdated. It is not an accurate way to determine what our youth knows. It creates anxiety, which leads to bad test scores, and that was proven in the study. And performance-based testing is a great way to start making equal opportunities for everybody. In conclusion, standardized testing is outdated. It is not fair to non-wealthy people in America, and to be tested on something that other kids are being personally taught on, it's just not fair. Performance-based testing can really change the education system and not have such a negative, and make children not have such a negative outlook on testing because it won't make them have so much anxiety about it. Thank you.